to Unequally Yoked Us Now. I'm Neal Winters,
And I'm Naomi Winters.
and it's another week, another episode.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, last time we talked about my mission stories, but the time before that we talked about roles, husband and wife roles, your changing roles, and my changing views of roles, and your changing views of roles.
And trying to change.
Yeah, that's
pretty hard.
Yeah. So let's continue that.
All right, let's continue that.
I'm going to let you start because I have no idea where this is going.
So, I do want to go a little bit back to my notes of when I started reading the introduction to
Oh, the
Wolf.
the women
book.
who run with the wolves.
Yeah. So, some of the thoughts that came up to me was the nature of women and being forced into what would be called unnatural rhythms.
Unnatural rhythms?
Yeah. Like society puts on us expectations for men and women and children and adults and whatever role you're in, there's an expectation, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that women naturally have a voice. They are not just creative. They can be scientific. They can be all the things.
We've got a
right?
niece who's a PhD in mathematics.
Yeah. A lot of times we talked a little bit about not being able to be angry, and men are unable to express emotions as well, but anger is more tolerated
For men.
for men.
Well, yeah.
But women are like, if the man is angry, he's going to make the whole home.
Can you talk a little bit about your debate experience in bitch ballots?
Oh, bitch ballot. So in high school, I was a debater, a master debater. We loved saying that in high school. You know how, well, maybe you don't. In Utah, it was very innocent. So things like that were just super fun to joke about.
Scandalous.
But anyway, so we would have these debates and we would get back the ballots of what our judges, the comments that they would say. And we frequently got what we call the bitch ballot. We could be debating a team of 2 boys and then 2 girls. That was my team. And we would be talking the same way, saying the same sort of things, same arguments, not yelling, not calm the whole time. But we would get what we call the bitch ballot. They would write, you were rude, you were inconsiderate. When the men, well, the boys, were doing the same thing. They were communicating in the same style, but it was unacceptable.
For the women.
Yes, we were, and we would be called bitches.
By the men or by the judges?
By the judges, usually the women.
The women judges would call you bitches? So they were harder, the women judges were harder on you than the men judges?
They wouldn't say it. They knew better. They had been taught that wasn't right.
Uh-huh. When you say they wouldn't
sometimes,
say, you mean the women wouldn't say it?
No, the men wouldn't say bitch.
Oh, the men wouldn't say it, but
Yeah.
the women were
But
like...
they'd be like, man, you were talking like you were a bitch.
The women would say that?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Right? So we had to change how we spoke. We had to be softer. We had to be more gentle. We had to not show any emotion whatsoever or be interpreted as showing emotion. And I cannot tell you how many times in a doctor's office I have been told the diagnosis was emotional.
Like your pain or your mental health or whatever?
Not just my mental health. They frequently blame physical ailments on mental health issues for women. They're being hysterical. They're complaining more. Women aren't as stoic as men. You know, whatever the belief is, you just don't get the kind of respect.
And that doesn't even get into race.
Mm-mm.
Like,
No, oh my goodness. Stats for like African American women, so much more death in childbirth and all across the board,
yeah,
just not heard.
it's awful. It really is awful. So anyway, go on.
I don't know why this is coming up, but the word dancing is coming up a lot in my mind. And historically, dancing was not tolerated. It was looked as if it was evil, even
Right.
to be free
For men and women.
for everyone.
Well, probably mostly for, because it seems like men, like in cowboy times, the men were inclined to dance, and it might be because of the book that I just read, because the main character does it's a western themed book, and the main character does a dance. But it seems like it was probably more acceptable in the 1800s and 1900s for men to dance than women to dance. But the men's dance would be very stomp your feet type thing.
Mhm.
But I could be completely and totally wrong. But there is Footloose, where John Lithgow bands dancing in
Right.
the community.
So, what qualities back, let's say 20 years, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What qualities do you consider feminine? What should a female be? Your view 20 years ago.
20 years ago,
What's her role? How does all the things?
I mean, we talked about the role of the woman, in my view, 20 years ago, not now. You know what? Even 20 years ago, I was coming. I would say more, because 20 years ago I was 30, so I was coming around. Uh, I would say more like 25, 30 years ago is when my
You've
views were.
always been more mindful of um, everyone's view. You've
Yeah,
been very tolerant that
yeah.
way.
I mean, but I talked about in the roles episode of my expectation of a wife that I had as a high schooler, when my girlfriend wanted to go into the medical field, and I wasn't very fond of that idea.
Mhm.
Um, but my view of what the ideal wife would be like when I met you, was that you would stay home with the kids, that you would raise the kids, that you would. I mean, my patriarchal blessing said I would marry a choice maiden in Zion, and to me, that in some ways made you feel like property
Mm.
of mine. I hesitate to say it that forcefully, but
You think I feel that way?
no, I'm saying I think I felt that way a little bit,
Like I was the property.
like you were the property.
You get to take me to wife.
Yeah.
I mean, you have me.
Okay. So yeah, I thought of you. I didn't explicitly think of you as property, but the teachings that I had and that I absorbed, the the wife really was the property of the husband.
Mhm.
And if you would have asked me if I thought that at the time, I would have said no. But I think that my underlying belief was that you would do what I wanted you to, or that you would obey as I obeyed the Lord, type thing. And and yeah, and your job was to do what I asked you to do, I guess. I don't think I was that bad,
Mhm.
but
But it was always there in the
but
back
it
of
was
your
always there
mind.
in the back of my
Mhm.
mind. Yeah. So
Mhm. And we talked a little bit about me feeling like I had to regulate everyone else's emotions
yes.
because if the man gets mad, the whole house is mad and we'll have it taken out on us, right? So,
Yeah. And that was really prevalent with me before I got on my antidepressants.
but you're told not to cry.
Yeah.
Society
I still
doesn't
don't cry.
frequently doesn't give men an outlet of how to express emotion besides anger being tolerated.
Yeah. Well, and I think my MO was before I got on medication. was to lash out and make the entire family uncomfortable and know that I was unhappy. And then I got on medication. Well, let me can I talk a little bit about my medication journey? Is that
Absolutely.
okay? So, we got married. I was not on medication. I was all happy go lucky and hung out with the kids, made them laugh, made them have fun. And then we moved to West Jordan, Utah, and there was a Sears, which is now out of business, but there was a Sears that popped up by our house. And the only reason I say Sears is because this memory is very specific to Sears. Um, when it used to before this experience, I would take the kids and like push them fun, and we had the two little girls at the time. I'd push them in the shopping cart and have fun with them, and maybe push the shopping cart like in front of me, and then run and catch up with it. And they loved it. They loved playing with their dad, and I loved playing with them. Well, one time we went into the Sears, and the desire to do that totally left me. Like I was like I thought to myself, I should feel like I want to do this. And I just don't. Like the desire to do it was gone. And that was kind of when I realized that I was depressed. I know that that might sound hokey or whatever, but I just knew um that I wasn't the way I used to be.
Mhm.
And it wasn't because I wasn't doing things right. It just was kind of a mental block. And so I went and got on medication. So but it was at that time when I was getting angrier and angrier, and you guys were feeling it more and more, and I was modeling the behavior that I had learned growing up, that the man has a right to be angry in the house and to come after the kids and let them know he and to essentially throw a temper tantrum,
Mhm.
for lack of a better phrase. And then I got on pills. Then I got passive aggressive. So instead of letting you hear all about my emotion, I buried it deep inside and didn't say anything and let you wonder what the hell I was thinking. Was I mad at you? Was I happy or what? So
Yeah, and the story I tell myself is always worse than the reality, except for a few times.
except for a few times.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a desire in me to be joyful and dance and be wild and speak my mind and all these things that usually, like in history, historically has been discouraged for women. Like that's not ladylike.
To dance?
Um, to be wild,
Oh,
to
okay.
disobey, to speak your mind, to argue, even.
Did I ever shut you down? Have I shut you down? Like when we've gotten in an argument, have I just been like, this is the way? Yes, I have. I know
Yeah,
I have. I still
yeah.
do it sometimes. And you're more willing to listen to me.
And I take it because that's what we were taught.
Yeah. Yeah. I still do it, don't I?
We.
We
It's really hard to break.
It is. And but you don't you let me shut you down, and you can come back and say something after I've calmed down,
Mhm.
but you take it and just kind of roll with the punches and try and absorb that shit and push it back eventually. But it can't be easy.
I'm not a saint. I mean, I imagine I do that sometimes, especially like to people who are younger than me.
Yeah. But I'm talking about in our
In
relationship.
our
You,
relationship, that's kind of how it is.
you
It's
usually absorb it.
I take it, wait for you to calm down, and then we can have like a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Recently in therapy, however, we did come up with the plan because your tendency is to take time to process in silence,
Mhm.
right? I want to talk about it. I want to process together. I want to have a conversation. I feel very unsettled when we haven't dealt with it. So you walk away. In my mind, story I'm hearing is that you're so angry. You're angry at me. Your love is being questioned for me.
Which
You're really questioning like the whole relationship. You want to get mad at me, but you're trying not to lose your stuff. And that's what I feel internally. And so the therapist recommended just a simple phrase like, everything's okay. I need some time. We'll revisit this tomorrow, or we're going to revisit this later. A promise, it helps to have a time,
right.
but a promise that, yes, we're going to have a conversation about it. But that's kind of my cue of, okay, he's going to process the way he does, and I will get what I need later. And I'm able to just kind of table it.
Right.
And you saying everything is okay, even if you are upset, I know we're going to work through it.
Can we process something right now?
Please,
And I'm
let's
not.
do it.
So I'm thinking about the wounded tire incident.
Oh,
I don't know. I can't remember if we talked about it, but Naomi popped a tire and told me that it was a construction debris when in reality it was her running into a curb because she was so excited to see the kids, which is fine. But when she told me, I was at bingo hosting bingo, and she texted me, I feel so bad, I lied to you, I shouldn't have done that, blah blah blah. And number one, I saw it like 20 minutes after she sent it because I was busy getting set up for the event and stuff. And so she, I'm sure, was thinking I was stewing and getting angrier and angrier. And so because I got it, didn't see it for like 20 minutes, I knew that I had to assuage you and make you know that I wasn't mad. But I didn't give myself room to actually feel any emotion. My gut reaction was to immediately tell you everything's okay, I'm not mad, life will go on, which was true, but I also was a little upset and felt like after I had told you I wasn't mad, these are internal conflicts.
okay.
Felt like I told you I wasn't mad, I didn't have room to change my mind and be frustrated with you.
Oh, you needed to have room to process that. And which means part of that is sitting in it and feeling it,
Yeah.
acknowledging it.
Yeah, and I thought about it the on the way home and ended up stopping at Waffle House for dinner to just kind of give myself a beat. But if I were to do it over again, I would have said, I'm this upsets me a little bit, but it's not relationship ending by any stretch of the imagination. But
Yeah.
I need to process this and uh and tell you how I feel after
Yeah.
the fact, and we can talk it out. But I felt like I backed myself into a corner by not being mad,
Right.
and
And you had to stay
and I
there.
had to stay there. So you would have been okay if I would have come out of that corner, but it was a mental block. I think you would have been okay, but it was a
Yeah.
mental block
But
for
there would
myself.
be, that's how resentments build. It's just not process. You're trying to process it too fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is what I
You
did.
never really get over it that way.
Yeah, and
It haunts ya.
now and our therapy session where we talked about this process was that's where we came back and said Neal needs to take a minute and think about it.
Take a beat.
So yeah, so it was a learning. Couples therapy has been very beneficial for me. It's taught me about recognizing my limitations, recognizing my passive aggressiveness in our relationship.
Mhm.
Because I am a very passive aggressive person. I sometimes I like to close
My
my eyes.
eyes twitching thinking about
Yeah,
it.
I like to close my eyes and send that email and hope that I don't get in trouble and deal with it later type thing.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
So
So, how did you
what oh, go ahead.
how did how what did you think of the way I handled that situation?
I was actually worried about you that for that you weren't going to be able to sit with your feelings because you would be worried about me. I thought that would happen.
Which is what happened.
Yeah.
And I should have been straightforward and said, "This is upsetting.
We'll be okay.
We'll be
Like
okay."
the phrase is just we're okay. We're going to be okay. I just need to take a beat.
Yeah. I'm learning.
We're going to be okay. I just need to take a beat.
Yeah. Okay, go on. You had a point you were moving on to.
Okay. I don't remember what it was. But what is your method to deal with things when your boundaries are walked on? What what is like what you think a male typical reaction would be versus female?
Well, I can only speak for. I think the typical male boundary, the stereotypical is that the male doesn't let anyone walk on their boundaries, and
Mhm.
just so my reaction is I let people
Walk on you.
walk all over my boundaries and step on it and slam it into the ground and bash my head in with it, and then walk away. And then I try and look at the bright side of the situation and be forgiving and not be upset. And
We
then
both do that.
yeah, and then I start thinking about it the rest of the day and realize, wait a minute, this person just walked all over me and I
Mhm.
let them, and I tried to look at the bright side of the situation, and that's not okay. But usually in the heat of the moment, I slouch over
Yeah.
and say, hit
So
me with your best shot.
when your dad's boundaries were crossed, what was his reaction?
I do not know. I don't know.
He got angry and told us to do it his way.
Yeah.
This or else, right?
Well, I don't know if that's his boundaries being crossed as much as him just wanting to
Wanting it
control
to
things.
control. Well,
Yeah,
okay. So to have a good boundary, there has to be this is what's going to happen if my boundary is crossed. And it's always what you're going to do. You
yeah,
you know. So if we're arguing and you name call, I am going to leave the room and we can talk about it later. Like
right.
the boundary is I will leave the room. So I frequently,
Which I don't name call, by the way.
no, you don't.
Okay.
I frequently feel like I can't uphold that as a female
For yourself.
for myself. And
Right.
also because, which is interesting because my mom held her boundaries. I don't know where that comes from.
Could it be from the bitch ballots?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you get shot down like that, even if it's not, even if it's informally, it's hard to shake that.
Somewhere in me, though, I felt like I didn't get to have that. It wasn't mine to have. Like, I get to tell people what I'd like to have happen, please, maybe if it's not too hard for you. And then if I don't get it, that's typical. I don't get it.
And you just move on with life
And yeah, and my
and,
boundaries are walked over.
and how does that
And
make you
it's
feel?
small and insignificant. Um, okay, one of the phrases that I really liked from this book that I read talking about, and can I just say female, typically female attributes, and I guess I should say masculine and feminine is what I should use because we all have masculine and feminine in us.
Yeah.
And some people identify as equally both or different, you know, proportions of whatever, and they call their own sexuality by that
I I relate a lot more to feminine
energy.
energy than like when we lived in Utah and we were first married. I hung out a lot more with your sisters than I did with their husbands.
Hmm.
And it's because I enjoyed being around you and your sisters and felt more comfortable around you and your sisters than I did around the men.
Tell me more about the reasons why.
Well, number one, their husbands didn't want to be didn't want not associate they didn't want to associate with the family very much.
Mm.
Like we'd do games and they would go off and hide in the computer room and play their computers. A lot of their interests were not my interests at all.
Do you recall speaking to me a little bit about the conversation difference? That in men's circles, conversations, it's typically not done talking about their feelings.
Right.
You just don't,
Yeah, men.
or their problems, or like this sort of conversation is not typically what the men are going to sit
Yeah,
around
and
at
the
the
and the
game and
men
talk about.
and the men who I'm the best friends with right now are the ones who I can talk about this type of stuff with.
Right.
But in when we were in your family, that type of conversation wasn't available with your wife, with your sister's husbands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, love them, they good people, but they but that type of conversation just wasn't around,
Yeah.
and I felt like they took their wives for granted.
Mhm.
Um,
But to be fair,
I did too.
men are frequently not given the opportunity or the words of how to express what's going on or even identify. Like society does not allow for that.
Yep, it really doesn't. I mean,
Mm-mm.
men are told to express with their fists.
Mhm.
I remember my aunt when she came and visited me one time. She babysat us because my parents went on some sort of a trip to Las Vegas or something. She told me that every man, at least once in his life, is going to have to hit somebody. Seriously,
Really?
yeah, every man, at least once in his life, will have to lay somebody out. And
Doesn't that imply that women won't or shouldn't? Not going to
po-
lay someone out if you're a woman.
yeah, well, the woman is with her man who's going to have to lay out the guy to
Oh,
protect his woman.
we're like cheering you on and
Yeah,
being the pretty eye candy on your arm.
yeah,
Okay.
and I don't know, maybe some women like I don't know, but the role the demonstration of maleness that I got was the man has to be aggressive
Mm.
and and beat people up if needs be, or lay the ground to waste,
The
and
protector.
the protector. And the funny thing is we talk about how women are too emotional to do things. It is said that women are too emotional to do things. I don't believe that for a second. But I think men, if a woman were to do half of the things that men do, she'd she'd get that bitch ballot.
Hmm.
I strongly believe that there's a huge double standard.
Especially with how you communicate. Um, Men are allowed to be a lot more assertive and even aggressive
Yeah.
and speak their minds and forceful and raise their voice. Mm-mm.
Oh, women get shouted down for that and
Mm-mm.
get
Oh,
mocked.
she's hysterical. Oh, she's completely unreasonable. Her emotions are out of control.
You know what we should watch and do a podcast about is there's a new documentary on Netflix called The Manosphere,
Manosphere.
and about this toxically masculine male influencing in society. There's like 5 really big male influencers that have said some awful things. So
All
it might be
right.
interesting to watch that and get your thoughts on it. I don't know much about it beyond what I just told you,
Mm-hmm.
but it got really good reviews. So put that on your notes for us to watch before an episode. I think it's called The Manosphere.
In what ways are men allowed to so called trade their chairs and tables for ground and trees and caves. Meaning,
What in the world is that from?
this is from women who run with the wolves.
Okay, please
So,
explain. I'm lost.
so you think of chairs and tables as proper, right? And rules and regulations. There's certain etiquette that goes with that. A wild person, one that is free from being held back and not
Constraints.
constricted, is able to trade their table and chairs to go be free and run wild in caves and trees and explore and be curious. And I keep telling our listeners, like, that's what we're hoping for. Explore, be curious, get conversations started. And I think a lot of people are uncomfortable because these kind of conversations are really heavy and hard to listen to and hard to process.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's not just entertainment.
No, I mean I'm looking at our listenership,
Yeah.
and we don't have a lot of people
But
watching.
that's not what we're going for.
Yeah, but I think part of the reason is because we're so heavy.
It's really uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable because it's not what we're used to.
So in response, are you saying that men have permission to be wild and to look outside the box
Yes.
more than women do?
Absolutely.
Because that was one of the things we talked about a couple weeks ago,
hmm
was how you were expected to be inside this box. And did you feel like a rebel anytime you went out of it, or did you feel uncomfortable? Do you still feel uncomfortable going outside the box?
Frequently, depending on who I'm going outside the box with. Um, I asked my boss how they were doing and showed a lot of concern. Let it be known that I think about them, worry. And it was very uncomfortable. And they're acting weird around me now.
Still?
Yeah. So, um, and my boss is female, but even that was just like too much. It was in our state, um, privacy is super valued and you don't get up in people's business. Whereas where we grew up in Utah, um, you were concerned about your neighbor and you wanted to be a part of their well-being and offer help in any way that you can.
And a lot of it,
You were up in everyone's business.
a lot of it came from the culture. I mean, we had home teachers.
Mhm.
We had, I mean, I was in the Sunday school presidency,
Mhm.
or and you'd go to meetings with the leadership of the ward, like ward council, and it was all about needs of the ward members. It was couched in such a way that we're concerned about them, but it was, if an outsider watching that would call it a gossip session. But the funny thing is that the women were the ones who were always tasked with doing the majority of the caretaking. The men were there to move the furniture, but the women were there for the emotional needs
There's a compassionate service leader, and it is female.
in the Relief Society.
And then the elders quorum president helps people move
Yeah. So here in our ward,
and other things too.
in North Carolina where we live, were you when you went, were people more up in each other's business in the ward than outside of the ward?
In Utah,
No, what about here?
um, no, not really. Like one of the differences was if you said went to the doctor, because you haven't been feeling well, here there would be no more questions. You'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear it. Anything I can do?" There, in Utah, it would be, "Oh, why'd you go?" They don't find that offensive or like up in your business or, you know, compromising your privacy. It's just like common nature. Like
How you doing?
What'd you go to the doctor for? What's going on? How can I help? Like, not just an offer of help, but you can keep the details to yourself if you'd like. Offer them if you'd like to, but I'm not asking for them. And I
But
have learned to appreciate that way, but when I first moved here, I really felt like people just didn't care. They were just wanting to stick to themselves and didn't give a crap. I am like having a lot of swear words in my head today.
it's okay to swear.
I'm trying really hard not to.
You're a good
At
person.
work. At work, there are people who care. Let's talk about like words like intuition, nurturing, intuitive, those kind of things. Do you think of a man when you think of those things?
I think of a feminine man.
Okay, fair.
Like
But that is a feminine quality that you
yes.
consider.
Yeah, I consider that
A
feminine.
pink job.
Yeah, a feminine quality. And it's not a bad thing. It's just but yeah, anyway, intuition, I don't think of men, I think of women, or
Mhm.
I think of men who are more emotional,
Okay.
or more in touch with their emotions.
Is that squashed more in women, do you think? Like, told to control it
Their
than like
intuition?
yeah, or shut down, not listened to,
I
ignored?
think okay, here's what I think. I think men will listen to the woman's intuition with patience and apparent love, and then the woman will walk away and the man will roll his eyes and say, "Okay, whatever,"
Whatever.
and do his own thing.
Yeah.
I think I've done that with you a few
Oh,
times.
so many times.
Yeah.
I wear crystals. They make me happy. I think they're pretty. Um, People have assigned things that like properties to them of ways they can help. And it's throughout cultures, throughout the whole world of common themes that show up. And so I'm like, well, maybe there's something to it. Science hasn't figured it out yet, the energy that is in everything and how the vibrations affect us. And so it brings me joy to wear my crystals. And you, I'm sure, are rolling your eyes at it, going, that's she believes in judo.
Well,
Like, you know,
I think you do believe
I of course.
in but I also think it brings you happiness and joy and it's not hurting anybody. So, I mean, if you're to be going up if it would bother me if you walked up to someone and said, "This rock told me a secret about you," and even if it's like something hopeful,
Yeah.
that's approaching causing harm because
Okay.
you're interfering with other people's lives with your magic.
Okay.
So that's kind of the like I
Entertainment. Okay.
yeah, but the minute you try and like this whole the Long Island medium have issues with that because she's interfering with other people's lives and and
What if it's to bring comfort?
it can still mess with you. Like I
You say words of comfort all the time,
yeah, but I don't go up and tell them that their dead relative is talking to me to tell them something. There's a difference.
but they tell them like to be happy and move on and that they're good.
Yeah, she doesn't need a dead relative to tell them that. She can tell them that herself.
Okay. Are there more women psychics than men?
I don't know.
I don't know.
There
There's
are
both.
there's both. Like I think about that one dude, the 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 Bronx, New York guy. I don't know what Larry, not Larry David. I don't.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, like I just have when you start invoking supernatural to influence others' lives and make money off of others. I mean, that gets into my whole problem with religion because I feel like it does the same thing. But anyway, for you and your crystals and your cute earrings and your necklaces and your whatever else, I have absolutely no problem. And you and our daughter love that stuff. I mean, You've had great
It's so
experiences going to
fun.
stores, like, you love it. It does not appeal to me whatsoever, but I'm not gonna tell you not to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Speaking of expressing oneself,
Mhm.
okay, so let's talk a little bit about women want to dress joyfully, want to express themselves with their hair and makeup and what they're wearing. All people do. They want to express themselves. Women run the real possibility of being a victim based on what they wear. At least they're told,
The
she's asking for it,
Right.
right? Um, being catcalled from young age, 8 years old. That's, do you feel like any, you could you wear anything that would put you in more harm's way?
If I were to walk around with assless chaps,
Would you be asking for it?
I don't know if I'd be asking for it, but
See,
I
you
kinda
could
would be.
show your ass and you wouldn't be asking for it,
I think I would be asking for it. If I were
but
to
who's gonna rape you?
I don't know if I'd get ra I don't think I'd get raped,
Attacked,
but catcalled or
catcalled.
made fun of, like,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I would have for me personally, if I were to walk out for example,
Mhm.
when we went to Bear Lake that one year, I had a Speedo, and
Which you did for a reaction
I did for a reaction, and
and
I put
hammed
it
it up.
on, and people gave me some seriously disturbed looks. But the funny thing is, thinking about it, no one really said anything to me. But if a girl would have walked out onto the beach in in something equally proportionately as revealing, in other words, like a thong bikini at the
Mhm.
time and like some really small nipple coverings,
Or a two-piece in
or
Utah.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about, two
Yeah.
piece. Um, she probably would have been talked to by somebody.
Mhm.
Whereas me, people just rolled their eyes and laughed.
Right.
Like, I probably felt a lot more comfortable doing what I did as a man than a woman would ever feel doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't feel safe. I wouldn't feel safe. And anytime, um, depending on how I dress, depending on my makeup, how I hold myself, um, things I say, the way I walk, all of those can, I've been told this, and there's evidence, can be inviting harm. And for a male, that's not something like a concern that comes up, is it?
It wasn't
Like,
even a thought. I like my moment of immodesty was that moment on the lake.
barely. That was
And
pretty immodest for you.
for me it was,
Yeah.
but the thing is like the thought of harm, the thought of someone wanting to come up to me and rape me or whatever, that
Mhm.
wasn't even
Well,
that
I
thought never
did
even occurred to me.
in college. I asked myself, why do I keep attracting the wrong guys? Like, what is going on? So I decided I was going to change the way I dressed. I did my hair and makeup. I was going to change how I spoke with people. Um, it commanded different behavior. And it also invited a different kind of guy that it attracted to me because I was now, um, more palatable, and
Did,
I was safe. I was not someone that was at risk. I was covered.
when you say you were covered, does that mean you wore less revealing clothes?
Absolutely.
You didn't dress revealingly at all when I met you.
No, I did not, but I used to.
Your wardrobe changed from before I met you to when I met you.
Yep. Yeah. I took a year. I made a
And
conscious effort to present myself in a way that would invite certain behavior, and certain people would be attracted to that. And so I do consider when I dress and what's going on, how am I presenting myself to the world today? What message am I sending? Whether it's fair or not, you're sending a message. And people do decide how they're going to speak and treat you. And men give themselves a lot more ad- permission, I guess, to catcall, to just really go, I don't know, they treat women like property, like
Yeah.
meat. And that's what bothered me about our daughter doing it to men. I was like, that is not fair. Although I did find that more humorous than a man doing it to a woman.
Yeah.
And it's not humorous. Really, it's not right
No.
to think that you own anyone
But
or,
so here's my question.
yeah.
Is it okay for a man to enjoy looking at a woman?
I enjoy looking at you.
I enjoy looking at you, but like let's say like I go out into public and I see women who are, dressed in
Mhm.
attractive outfits, whether it's skimpy or whether it's full business dress. Like I
Yeah.
notice and I think, "Oh, she's pretty."
Right.
And also sometimes I think, "Oh, she has a good figure."
Mhm.
Um,
Do you talk like, I have had to say, "My face is up here." Um, does that happen to you?
no.
Do you ever have women checking out your junk, your ass, saying something about it?
Well, my ass is always turned to him, so I don't look
Have
behind
you
me.
had someone catcall you and talked about how awesome your butt is?
No.
I
You.
have.
You have, like
Mhm.
a stranger.
Mhm. Nice ass. I've I've been smacked on the ass uninvited. I've been several things uninvited. But yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's interesting.
Boo.
So, but yet there's also let's talk about this. There's also this unhealthy fixation on modesty.
So, one of the things suggested in a book I was reading was that we start questioning the language and verbiage that we use with how we talk about feminine and masculine, and make it more inclusive.
Mhm.
And I didn't get to the part of how you would do that. Do you have any ideas? Like, what kind of language change are we?
There's all the they them type
Okay.
stuff.
Well, yeah, that's true, but I don't think that's what they're talking
But,
about.
also you get into, like, my thought about, gay I am more comfortable around gay men than I am around straight men.
Mhm.
Like, is that a problem? Like, is that
It's a
assigning
stereotype, and it's not true for
it's
everyone.
not true for everyone, but some of the people who I enjoyed
Maybe.
working with the most of my career have been gay.
Some of the people that you've worked with and really enjoyed have not been gay.
Yeah, 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 but the ones who I felt the most comfortable
Working with.
working with, I've been comfortable with really straight men as well. You know what?
That's not fair.
That's not fair
Not an
because
accurate
it's not an
assessment.
accurate assessment because I've been comfortable around both.
Mm.
I've been comfortable around both.
I am incredibly more comfortable with females than males. I had a panic attack when my bishop locked the door for an interview, which he just didn't want us to be interrupted. It was really loud outside and everything, but I was not okay.
Yeah,
He was a man. I
he
was a woman. I was not okay.
he should never have done that.
Yeah, that was not okay. Um, I didn't feel safe.
Yeah, you've got to feel safe.
But you would have felt safe, right?
I would have felt fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had an issue. I wouldn't have even thought about it.
Mhm.
Just would have been like, but that's part of the thing that as men, if you care about women in the right way,
You try to be
you
mindful
try
of
and be
that.
mindful of that. And
Think about that.
it's not a it's okay to ask, do you want me are you okay if I shut this door or would you prefer it stay open?
Yeah.
And you'd hope that's the other problem though, is had he asked you, would you have told him it's okay to shut the door, or would you have spoken up for
At
yourself?
the time, I would have stayed quiet.
Yeah, that's the problem is and that
And I did not tell him that I was having a panic attack.
of course
I
not.
tried my hardest to hide it. And then I finally had to say, "Can I take a minute?" I went and got a drink of water.
Yeah. Cuz once again it gets into your I need to
I
be the
can't. Yeah, I can't speak up for myself or ask for
and
anything. I'm a second-rate person. I'm property, all the things.
yeah. And
And not every girl got this. Not
but it's very
It's
prevalent,
common.
especially in religious cultures. It's
There is a lag in women's roles frequently, not always, with religions.
yeah. And I mean,
I mean, men were the only ones that could be seen or heard in church.
yep, I think the Bible talks about how women can't talk in church or
hmm
something.
And yeah, I mean, everything was by the men.
Yeah.
Women's purpose was to be a helpmeet.
Yeah, to support the man.
Mhm.
And the minute you
How do we still do that?
I don't know.
There are ways we still do that.
You and I?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
You support me.
There are ways that we still play our roles, though.
Mhm.
Like, even though we're trying to break that habit.
Yeah.
But you know what? We have been able to have both of us deal with our children emotionally. Like, we each have had times and turns
Yeah.
to help
You're doing more of it now than I am.
nurture in the emotional realm. And I frequently would ask you to go have a conversation with one of our children because you were able to let them feel heard. You were really good at, you know, restating in different words back to them what you heard to clarify that, yeah, we're hearing each other. I
Yeah.
understand you. Because so much of defensiveness with the children comes from, you're not hearing me. I'm not being heard. And that's true of anyone.
Yeah. Well, I think
We've rambled
we've rambled. I think
long enough.
yeah, we're going to be
Tell us to
on
be quiet.
yeah, it's good. We're going to be on you on we're going to put this out on
On podcast.
podcasts too. I'll start releasing podcasts probably this Sunday. So not only will we be on YouTube, but we'll also be on Apple, Spotify, all that fun stuff. I
Getting our
still have
old
to
episode.
what?
Are you getting our old episode?
I hope to get our old episodes up. That's
Even if you have to minus that one.
yeah, that is a project that I'm gonna put together. I just need
Someday.
to get someday. It will get done. Let me get these ones released, and then we'll release the past ones.
I was telling my sponsor today, I'm like, I always have my hopes and list of what I'm hoping to get done, and I'm just realizing it's not going to be completed.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get the website
I'm never
done.
done.
I want to get the website done. That isn't
So
done.
much
Like
to get
there's a
done.
lot to do.
The
and
camera stuff.
It takes a lot of time. So
We're working.
yeah.
One step at a time, right?
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining us, and
Keep on keeping on. Do what you got to do, and
stay curious.
stay curious.
Okay.
Love ya. Bye bye.
Bye bye.